The Prince of Wales was able to go out on his own. When he was 21, he was given an independent income by the House of Commons, and he could set up his household wherever he wished, and he did in London. He took his frustrations out in high living and self-indulgence. Remarkable, right? Yeah. He began to build himself a townhouse for the first thing. He called it Carlton House, and it was a magnificent structure. It was really a palace. None of it exists today except the portico. And when you go to London, if you go to the National Gallery of Art, you will see his portico, because when they tore down Carlton House, they saved the portico. And when they built the National Gallery, they put the portico up as the entrance to it. It's huge, so you can get an idea of the scale of Carlton House. But by '95, by the middle of the 90s, only a few years hence, after the expenses that they were putting out for the pavilion and everything else, the Prince of Wales was in such desperate debt that his creditors were threatening to take him to court. And if he didn't pay up, they would haul him into debtor's prison. The Prince of Wales, the heir to the throne, debtor's prison, never! Well, the prince was in a terrible way about this. And one day he received a message from his father, a summons to appear at Windsor. Well, you don't, whatever the king commands, you obey. And so he went up to Windsor, spent a few days with his family, and at dinner one evening, and the king and the prince were not on good terms. The king said, "Now, George, my boy, I understand that you're having financial difficulties and in a great debt." "Yes, father." "Well, I think maybe I can help you with this and give you a solution. If..." "Yes, father, if what?" "Well, I can help you if you will marry a girl of my choosing." "Marry a girl? But I love Mrs. Fitzherbert. She's my wife. I don't want another wife. I have the wife I want." He didn't say this to the king. What was he to do? The creditors were killing him. They were going to murder him and take him to prison. "Oh, all right, I'll do it." 3 minutes. Well, the king and queen had already chosen their favorite niece for the bride-to-be, Caroline von Braunschweig. This was the queen's favorite niece, certainly. He was gaining huge weight. He was up to 400 pounds. He was simply vast. The table reflected it. He had a French chef providing the guests, and it was delicious. Yum, yum, yum. But it finally petered out when he began to die of gout and edema. He was just his heart was failing. There's no question about it. He became a recluse at Windsor, which he was rebuilding. He abandoned the pavilion, never went back. It was no longer a part of his life. And in 1830, at the age of 70, George IV died. Now, he was the most unpopular king in English history up to that point. But he was also the most distinguished in taste and talent, no question. You know, if it weren't for George IV, we wouldn't have the famous Guildhall. I don't know how many of you feel, but that's a vast, beautiful structure in central London. Many functions take place there. At Windsor Castle, which he had rebuilt and redesigned. Buckingham House, which of course is now Buckingham Palace, was rebuilt by his workers. Brighton Pavilion, the most famous. And the Tower of London, all that complex was redesigned and refurbished and rebuilt. And all the interior, the furniture and the plate and everything, all of this was his work. I don't mean he did it with his fingers. I mean he had it done with artisans. Now his efforts are appreciated as the greatest tourist attractions in England, whereas in 1830 everybody hated him.